Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai 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 Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. When yesterday he prompted us to go through Uddhava's experience, first one when he went to gopis to console them. Second is he requests Lord Krishna in so many ways to make him aware of his presence. At the same time, we should know what was the path chosen by Papa himself. It was nothing but Jnanottara Bhakti. This is a very important point, especially for us who are trying to make an in-depth study of Inquest of God. Otherwise, we may not understand what is jnana and what is bhakti. Jnanottara Bhakti. So in one of the satsang, Papa clarified it. Jnanottara Bhakti, bhakti that comes after jnana. Jnana is the realization of the Atman, Nirguna Brahman. What about the universe? How to look upon it? Take it as the manifestation of Brahman. That is done in Parabhakti, which is called Jnanottara Bhakti. After attaining jnana, the bhakta looks upon the whole universe as God himself. He does not discard it as mithya. The Gita also says the world manifestation is the Leela of Lord. This experience is gained through Parabhakti. Once again we will read. Jnana is the realization of the Atman, Nirguna Brahman. What about the universe? How to look upon it? Take it as the manifestation of Brahman. And the bhakta retains his sense of individuality, looks upon the manifestation as the form of the Lord. This is very, very important. That is why we don't have any idol worship inside the ashram. In fact, immediately after Papa Samadhi, Mataji wanted the Samadhi Mandir to be named as Homa Mandir, where there was no image. Mataji wanted that place, that holy place, for this, to develop this Jnanottara Bhakti. Retaining our reverence to the form of Papa, we are trying to connect ourselves with the entire manifestation as the form of the Lord, whom Mataji named as Papa. Retaining the adoration to the form. That is why throughout the narratives of In Quest of God, he was not missing the Lord. We can never find a place where he did not miss. While he acknowledged in some temple, how the Lord would kindle him, in some temples or some places, he did not at all. So his was of universal nature, and whether it was hills, dales. Yesterday the gopis were telling you, remember, whenever we see a cloud, Papa has composed a beautiful poem. You can get, the poem is there. Two poems are there. One is, I see him everywhere. The other is, otherwise you can get me the laptop. So he was always conscious of this. Even while he was traveling, wherever he saw, he was only seeing. You can go through and see the Himalayas, Number one, you can, even on the Tiruvannamalai hills, when he was courting solitude, how he was trying to identify the presence of Ram, the mysterious power, in trees, in stones, and in all movable and immovable creation. So, while we go through this inquest of God, this is a very important point, Jnanottara Bhakti, Para-Bhakti. Probably that is why he brought in all these things for the past 2, 3, 4 days. Yesterday, immediately after hearing, somebody said, we only want Bhakti. Of course, nothing wrong in having it. But Papa, when we take to in study, Papa himself has said, a man who thinks that he can attain God without contacting a saint cannot have his wish fulfilled. This is very clear from the lives of all saints and sages. What the saints and sages whose names Ramdas is going to mention did in the first place was that they contacted saints and received from them initiation of the name of God, and they started chanting that name, looking upon the person who initiated them as their spiritual master and guide. In the ancient days, according to the Puranas, we had great devotees like Prahlad, Narada, Draupadi, later on Namdev, Tulsidas, Tukaram, Gauranga, Kabir, Nandanar. All these saints held God's name as the chief means for the concentration. In one of his poems he says, I live in all forms. The I stands for the Lord, I live in all forms are mine. I rest in rocks, hills and plains. I grow in plants, verdure and trees. I creep in worms, germs and ants. I fly in the birds and fowls in the air. I roam in the beasts of the wilds. I act and move in man, woman and child. I shine in the sun, moon and stars. I rise and fall in the waves of the sea. I run and dance in the flow of the stream. I roar and crash in the thunders of the sky. I flash in the lightning and blaze in the fire. I fill the air and dwell in silent space. I grow in the twilight, sleep in the darkness of the night. I am the life that animates all things. I am the truth that abides in all things. I am the Supreme One, and there is none but I. So he now makes it very clear to us that what does Jnanottara Bhakti yield? Jnanottara Bhakti is this identification with the entire manifestation. At the same time retaining the sense of individuality. This is something unique. I live in all forms are mine. This we know, this I stands for the all-pervading reality. So this is jnana, But at the same time, bhakti is there. Somebody is there to look and say, Somebody is there to observe these things and declare that I am this. I am in all forms are mine. I rest in rocks, hills and plains. I grow in plants, verdure and trees. I creep in worms, germs and ants. He is trying to cover all beings. I fly in the birds and fowls in the air. I roam in the beasts of the wild. I act and move in man, woman and child. I shine in the sun, moon and stars. I rise and fall in the waves of the sea. I run and dance in the flow of the stream. I roar and crash in the thunders of the sky. I flash in the lightning and blaze in the fire. I fill the air and dwell in silent space. I glow in twilight, sleep in darkness of the night. I am the life that animates all things. I am the truth that abides in all things. I am the Supreme One. There is none but I. So he is now prompting us or motivating us to dwell on this aspect. Jnanottara Bhakti. Jnanottara Bhakti means the Bhakti comes after Jnana. Jnana is the realization of the Atman, Nirguna Brahman. What about the universe? How to look upon it? Take it as the manifestation of Brahman. That is done in Parabhakti. After attaining Jnana, the Bhakta looks upon the whole universe as God himself. He does not discard it as Mithya. So Brahman is at once manifest and unmanifest. And so many he keeps on talking about Prakriti, Purusha. Okay, we are leaving it. So, Jnanottara Bhakti. And now he says about according to the Puranas, we had great devotees like Prahlad, Narada, Draupadi. Later on, Namdev, Tulsidas, Tukaram, Gauranga, Kabir, Nandanar. All these saints held God's name as the chief means for the concentration, purification, elevation of the mind and for the ultimate realization of God. Draupadi was an ardent devotee of Krishna. First of all, it is absolutely necessary, as Draupadi and all others have done, that we should give our heart to God and then take His name. We should give our heart to God and then take His name. What does it mean? What does it mean? All are hearing? Or in deep samadhi?
Hari Om, Swamiji is asking you all.
Hari Om. Yes. Given the heart to God, what means that you have to fill up with all good qualities.
Fill the heart with all good qualities.
Passion, compassion,
Care, concern, compassion.
And number two, so that other worldly objects will not come to
Other worldly objects will follow. And
will not enter.
That will not enter world.
Even if they enter, will have least impact on your mind.
Even if it enters, it will not have least.
And also behaving with kindness with all the good qualities.
Yes, that is right. But when we make it a reality, what should we do? I am chanting the name. What should I do? In short word, we can say the me and mine is not there. When our heart is given to Him, is there any place for me and mine? We should give our heart to God and take His name. Then it is that we are completely entitled to the protection of God in all situations. So me and mine, that is the biggest hurdle even to develop bhakti. Artha, Artharthi, those two are there when we pray to relieve our sufferings, to improve our standard of living. Artha and Artharthi are there, bhaktas. But we have been asked when we have to really pick out the benefit, this me and mine will not be there. So Nishkama Bhakti, where me and mine is totally absent. In the other two, me and mine are there. All will not be able to raise ourselves to that level immediately. First we will pray for our difficulties, pray for our relief from the difficulties, or some of the pressing needs to improve our standard of life. We will ask. It is permitted. That is why even in Bhagavad Gita he says there is these 4 types of bhaktas are there. Artha, Artharthi, Jnanasu, Jnani. Artha means those who are in difficulties, they cry for God's help. Artharthi, one wealth or welfare, general welfare. And Jnanasu is, he has got an intense desire to become one with Him. And Jnani is only that. So the first 2 categories, Papa is not mentioning. He says that we should give our heart to God and then take His name. Then it is that we are completely entitled to the protection of God in all situations. Because in Artha and Artharthi, one particular problem will be there, we are placing it before Him. After that problem is solved, another problem will come. Another problem will come. So the complete protection will not be there, but here the complete protection will come when we are in that Jnanasu stage. We are repeating His name with our mind engaged in worldly thoughts and desires and do not depend entirely upon God or love Him above everything else in the world. As a result of this, we do not get as much help and support from Him as we expect. You know that when Draupadi was in great trouble, she called on Krishna to come to her rescue. But Krishna did not come as she was trying to protect herself. But when she gave up her own effort to defend herself and entirely depended upon Krishna and called on Him, He at once saved her. Entirely depending upon the Lord. This is what Draupadi teaches us. Lord Gauranga. Then again we find Gauranga and Tukaram, who were the votaries of divine name. They were ceaselessly repeating God's name. They had visions and divine experiences. Gauranga was simply mad of the divine name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was dancing in ecstasy. He electrified the hearts of those who came in contact with him and made them also chant God's name. When he was going from village to village, people from those places joined him in the chorus of the divine name. Really, when we repeat God's name and get the joy resulting from it, we cannot sometimes contain ourselves. We stand up and dance in ecstasy. When a child gets a new toy, what does it do? It dances in joy. When joy runs in your veins and takes possession of every part of your body, you dance in ecstasy. Sant Kabir. Kabir was another votary of God's name. How did he get God's name? He was a Muslim by birth. He wanted to repeat God's name, but nobody would give him initiation. He went to Swami Ramanand, a famous saint of Benares, prayed to him to give the name of God, but the Swami said he could not be initiated because he was a Muslim. It was usual for Swami Ramanand to go to the Ganges for his bath early in the morning, even when there was no sufficient light. And as he had to step down the ghat, Kabir went and laid himself on one of the steps of the ghat, at the very place where Swami Ramanand used to take his bath. Swami did not see Kabir lying down, so he placed his foot on the back of Kabir and suddenly felt that somebody was lying down. He said, Ram, Ram. As soon as Kabir heard his name, he got up and said his work was over because he felt he had got the initiation. From that time, he started repeating the name and got the highest spiritual experiences. He had the vision of divinity in all forms, in all respects and all ways. That means he had the all-comprehensive and all-inclusive realization of God. Maharshi Valmiki. You know, Valmiki was a robber. By the grace of Narada, who gave him the Rama Mantra, he was not only saved from doing evil, but was also raised to the status of a Maharshi. He was venerated all over the world. Ajamila repeated God's name once at the time of death. The result was that by the power of the name he was taken to heaven. Tulsidas is never tired of praising the power of name in Ramayana. If you read here and there the great praises he gives to the power of the name, you will be simply charmed. Say Namdev. Namdev and another great yogi of the time went together on a pilgrimage. On the way, both felt thirsty. They found a well which was very deep and had only a small quantity of water at the bottom. They could not get at the water. The yogi converted himself into a small sparrow, went inside the well, drank water and came out. But Namdev had no such powers. But he had unshakable faith in God, and his name was always on his lips. He turned towards Pandharpur, where his Ishta was residing in the temple, and cried out, "Oh Vittal, I am thirsty, I want water." Then a miracle happened. The water at the bottom of the well came up and overflowed. He not only drank the water, but could also take a bath in it. He did not have to become a sparrow. Saint Nandanar. Nandanar was a pariah by caste. He repeated the name of Nataraja before seeing or knowing anything about him. Repeating his name, he was dancing in ecstasy. Ultimately, God took him to Chidambaram, and there he disappeared in the flash of light that came from God in the temple. This status was achieved by a pariah saint by his simple chanting of the name of God. You know, of course, about Narada. Day and night he is singing God's name and is immersed in continuous joy and ecstasy. Ramdas can multiply instances like this because in our Puranas we have the lives of many saints. Therein we find that the divine name saved people not only from worldly difficulties and dangers, but also raised them to the highest spiritual eminence, by which they realize their oneness with God, not only in the personal form, but also in the impersonal, all-pervading forms. Even after realizing God in all these aspects, they were able to feel constantly the fellowship of God with them. Jnanottara Bhakti. God used to look after them tenderly in so many ways. A devotee is under the protection and care of God. He is relied upon by a devotee. God is relied upon by the devotee as his master, but he virtually becomes the servant of his devotees. He means God. God looks after them like the mother looks after her child. This is Ramdas's experience all these years. God has been after him and attending on him like a mother. This is all due to Ramdas's repeating his name. His name is wonderful in its potency, wonderful in its power. It can transform a mortal into an immortal and raise him to the highest spiritual eminence. It can convert him entirely into an image of God. So you should all make it a point to remember God every day by chanting His holy name, and keep your mind perfectly serene and calm, and feel His presence in your heart. Everywhere, finally, Papa will say, chant. Then he will say, finally, the heart should be, we should be able to hand over the hearts to Him. Keep your mind perfectly serene and calm, and feel His presence in your heart. So for the past 2, 3, 4 days, he was making us aware of the path chosen by him, Jnanottara Bhakti. If we go through the heart pourings, it becomes very, very clear to us. He is looking upon the creation, he is looking upon the creation himself, and at the same time retaining the sense of individuality. One, for example, we will read from the Tiruvannamalai, The irresistible attraction felt by him toward this friend was due to the perception of Ram in him. At times he would feel driven to clasp in his arms the very trees and plants growing in the vicinity of the cave. Ram was attracting him from all directions. Oh, the mad and loving attraction of Ram! Thou art love, light and bliss. Thus passed his days in that cave. In Himalayan journey, he writes, on the fourth day they started on their journey higher on the hills. As they climbed higher and higher, the scenes and landscapes they saw were found to be simply enchanting. On the right, the sacred Ganga was rushing downhill in all her glory, and on the left, high rocky hills, full of foliage and trees, presented at once a thrilling and absorbing sight. The very air there was charged with the divine presence of Ram. See? The very air was charged with the divine presence of Ram. The far-off hills and valleys, the varied-hued sky in which the white fleecy clouds assumed fantastic shapes, the snow-capped mountains hundreds of miles away up, dazzling in the rays and sun of the sun, as though they were covered with sheets of silver. All these constituted indeed an imposing sight. Oh, the charm of the scenes, oh Ram! Poor Ramdas cannot find adequate words to describe the grandeur, the beauty, the wonderful glory of the sights that met his world gaze. Mathura, Gokul and Vrindavan also, he was immediately transported to the days of Lord Krishna. Ram was ever ready to help. Okay. After visiting some temples, he proceeded next to Govardhan. Govardhan was situated at a distance of 14 miles from Mathura. They reached this place at midday. Here was the famous hill of Govardhan, which is said to have been lifted up by Sri Krishna, supported on the tip of his little finger to protect the cows and cowherds from the heavy torrents of rain sent down by the angry god Indra. But this hill is fast okay. Vrindavan is a very delightful place. Here to sit under their cool shade when the fresh breeze is flowing over the place from the bosom of Mother Jamuna is to enjoy heaven itself. He was charmed with the place and stayed on the banks of the river for a fortnight, made the dry sand his bed and seat for the night, and the shade of the trees a little above his resting place for the day. The very air seemed to be charged with the presence of that love incarnate Sri Krishna. And when soft breezes were blowing, they seemed to be carrying into Ramdas's ears the maddening music of Sri Krishna's flute and the silvery sound of the tinkling tiny bells of his blessed dancing feet. Now and again, a deep, soft and resonant voice would travel in the air, Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam. Ramdas lived there in a state of complete ecstasy and rapture. Days passed by unconsciously. The whole stay seemed to be one long-drawn, sweet, pleasant dream. So like that, he keeps on explaining. Everywhere we find the mind is filled with Ram. So he asks us when you are chanting it, we also should give our heart to God. How to do it? Each one has to try and find out, that's all. There is no shortcut. Keep your mind perfectly serene and calm and feel His presence in your hearts. One more aspect of essence of bhakti by Swami Chinmayanandaji. The term bhakti is not to be understood in its cheap connotation, which it has come to gather in its direct translation as devotion. Selfless love, seeking a fulfillment in itself, when directed toward the divine, with firm faith and an all-out belief, that is called bhakti. Selfless love, seeking a fulfillment in itself, when directed toward the divine, with firm faith and an all-out belief, that's called bhakti. Love itself means identifying with the object of love in such a way that the joys and sorrows of the beloved become equally poignant joys and sorrows of the lover. In short, the lovers become one with their beloveds, both in their physical and emotional lives. Therefore, Shankara describes bhakti as the identification of the ego with the real nature. Regarding devotion, Shankara says, no doubt of the means available for liberating ourselves, the most substantial hardware is bhakti. And identifying ourselves with the self is called bhakti. Identifying ourselves with the self. Identification is the truest measure of love. The devotee, forgetting his own individual existence, and in his love identifying to become one with his beloved Lord, is the culmination of divine love. The Vedantic student, who is the seeker of the self, is spiritually obliged to renounce all his abstract identification with his matter vestures and discover his true nature to be the self. Only those who are thus capable of identifying themselves with the one unifying truth in its web of love can experience me in this fashion, in my cosmic form. The path of devotion is not a mere sentimental explosion or an excessive emotional display. It is not a mere frivolous hysteria. It is the blossoming of the human personality through the surrender of our limitations and by acquiring new vitality during the inspired moments of deep contemplation. We were reading the Vision for May. These are all culled out from the Vision for May, which you will be receiving during this week or next week. One story is there. Once a poor little boy who could not get even a morsel of food to appease his hunger stole a banana from a nearby fruit shop. Being a devotee of Lord Guruvayurappa, he dropped half the banana into the hundi and he ate the other half. The shopkeeper caught hold of the boy and accused him of theft. The boy admitted his mistake. However, the shopkeeper did not have the heart to punish him, but to teach him a lesson, he asked him to walk around the temple a certain number of times. The shopkeeper was aghast when he saw Lord Guruvayurappan follow the little boy around the temple. That night the Lord came to the shopkeeper in a dream and explained, "Since I have also had a share in the stolen banana, I am bound to share the punishment too." So I followed the boy around the temple. Epistles of Swami Ramdas. What is bhakti? Bhakti is intense love and longing to attain God. Bhakti is like a steady flame which burns in our hearts and continues burning until God is reached. Ceaseless remembrance, in a flowery word. The desire possesses in such a manner that there would be for us no other ambition in life than to realize God. This longing consumes us like a fire day after day. A veritable madness for God seizes our mind, and all our mental and physical energy is utilized exclusively for taking possession of God. When this bhakti has brought us face to face with the dearest and of the quest of our life, we shall have found peace once and for all. We shall then have realized a condition in which we have no desire of any kind left to be fulfilled. We are one with the Supreme Truth. And what is Prem? Or what words can describe the sublimity of Prem? God is Prem. Prem is God. He is a pure, dazzling, blissful reality. That is how it ends. Bhakti means an united attempt to direct all the forces of the heart, intellect and will toward the attainment of the all-inclusive, all-comprehensive truth of your existence and of the world existence. Our existence and the world existence. Because somebody said, Jagat is mithya. But here, a jnani may say that. Brahma Satyam, Brahman is the Satyam and Jagat is the mithya. But a bhakta will not say that because he also sees the Lord as the manifestation. That is why here Papa says, Bhakti means a united attempt to direct all the forces of the heart, intellect and will. Heart is the seat of feeling, Intellect is the seat of thoughts. Heart helps us to well up bhakti. Intellect probes deeper into jnana. So a united attempt to direct all the forces of the heart, intellect and will toward the attainment of the all-inclusive and all-comprehensive truth of your existence and of the world existence. Not only our individual existence, but also the world existence. And one more thing we wanted to share. Yesterday while we were reading Gopi's Bhakti, and later on how Uddhava also felt. They will not ask anybody for anything. They will not ask how to develop bhakti. So the bhakti is a spontaneous feeling. When our mind becomes pure, it is a spontaneous blossoming. When if we are asking what is bhakti and all those things, that means we are nowhere near bhakti. Because our intellect is asking, We want to memorize certain things. It is not that. So by the churning of the intellect, we should somehow clear everything so that the waves of bhakti wells up in our hearts. Intellect is not ruled out here. That is why he said the combined efforts. So this is called Jnanottara Bhakti, if we understand it rightly from Papa's words. He goes through that. When he says you are chanting the name coupled with unceasing remembrance of God as the indwelling and all-pervading spirit, the eternal spirit. That comes from the intellect also helps. But at the same time, intellect is asked to keep quiet beyond certain level. And the bhakti wells up. So here it is very, very clear. God is making us to have a comprehensive idea about the entire creation and also our role in it. So we feel that we should pray to Him to give this Jnanottara Bhakti to us. So that not only individually we are satisfied, as individuals we are getting properly connected with the creation outside. Because we have not reached a stage where we can have any of these. In the Bhaktottama's case, they did not ask anybody anything about bhakti. It welled up, God willed. And it welled up by its own, and they were quite satisfied with that. We are not like this, we are hearing these words of Papa, It is yet to blossom. We are trying to understand the bhakti through our intellect. Now it is very clear that we have to stop, halt the intellect's job to have this real bhakti. That can come only by thinking about Him and becoming subservient, becoming conscious of His presence every moment of our lives. So we are praying to Him. You made us to go through all these things. And finally you also said that intellect cannot grasp bhakti. So what you have given us an intellect. You have facilitated so many things for us to know about you and the world. And now suddenly you say that bhakti has to come by itself, that you have to facilitate. There we cannot do any self-effort. Our only job is to pray to you from the bottom of my heart, our heart. And then hear what you say. And move towards you, the way in which you want. So far I have been planning as to how to move towards you. Now I know that it is useless. I cannot move an inch. So now I pray to you and make me to move towards you. Because even to seek Him, we need His grace, That is why in In Quest of God, Papa says in the first, before the chapter, It was about 2 years ago that Ram first kindled in the heart of his humble slave Ramdas a keen desire to realize his infinite love. He did not say that Vittal Rao wanted to realize God. No. Ram first kindled in the heart of his humble slave Ramdas. Very important word now we understand. Ram first kindled in the heart of his humble slave Ramdas a keen desire to realize his infinite love. Where our intellect cannot lead us, our knowledge cannot lead us. To strive to approach and understand Ram is to recede from the world of vanishing forms, because Ram is the only truth, the only reality. Ram is a subtle and mysterious power that pervades and sustains the whole universe. Birthless and deathless is He. He is present in all things and in all creatures who only appear as separate entities due to their ever-changing forms. To wake up from this illusion of forms is to realize at once the unity or love of Ram. Love of Ram means love of all beings, all creatures, all things in the world. Because Ram is in all is in Ram, Ram is all in all. So to seek Him, we need His grace. So again we are back to square one. That is why Papa once declared, sadhana is to know that by sadhana alone one cannot reach Him. His grace is needed. So we have to facilitate the grace to come. That means the me and mine is the roadblock. So the me and mine has to be reduced somehow. That is the important clarion call of Papa. You know? Then only we will see that He is helping us to seek Him. He has given us a long rope to function as an individual. And when He gave us, we forgot that He gave us. We assumed we are the absolute authority. And we started building up so many things, inside and outside. And now He says, then I will not be able to, you will not be able to feel my presence. Yesterday we read somewhere, it is a narrow lane, you remember? Where to, who said? Who? Kabir. Kabir has sung, the lane of love is so narrow that two people cannot walk on it. So devotion or intense love is the art of losing oneself in the beloved Lord. Everybody's ego is such that we want to be loved, adored, adulated by others. We give or make a show of giving that much love as to attract others' love. This is not intense love, it is selfish love. Bhakti is a selfless love, where we tell the Lord, Lord, let me die, but let you live forever. Bhakti is the art of dying of sense of individuality. Here one does not want a reciprocal love from the Lord. A reciprocal love is a commercial deal. It's a business with an eye on profit. In Bhakti, the devotee wants that the Lord must be pleased, and he is prepared to stake his life, if need be, for this purpose. He has no desire of his own to be fulfilled. So long as one entertains any desires for attaining objects relating to the world or to the other world, his love for the Lord can best be only lukewarm. Artha and Artharthi, it will not take us to Him. All our desires have to be concentrated on Him only. In fact, even in the Jnanamar, relinquishing of all desires alone entitles one to God realization. So everywhere this is given. The lane of love is so narrow that two lovers cannot walk on it. So these are all some of the things which he wanted us to know. He explains about this Jnanottara Bhakti in 2-3 places in God experience, not 1 or 2.
Now is Pujya Bhakti, Jnanottara Bhakti Swamiji? Bhakti for Krishna.
You are right. Selfless love, you know. He did not want to ask, he did not ask anything. He did not ask anything. Anything means anything. When he was in dire poverty.
Swamiji, Shabari Bhakti is also
Shabari Bhakti.
Shabari Bhakti, yes.
He was waiting forever.
Yeah. Quite right.
Swamiji, just now in the story, you said that about that boy who has dropped a half banana. What is that kind of bhakti? Was there a bhakti actually?
No, the moral is, the boy, though he stealthily got it, he may not know anything. Suddenly he felt half of it should be offered to Guru Ayyappan. So there is a pure form of bhakti is there. But at the same, and in reciprocation, the Lord also shared the, what do you call that, punishment. Now the say is, the Lord will not keep quiet. When something is offered to him, he will not keep quiet. And he made him aware, you know. He made him aware. We have heard one more story of Guru Ayyappan's devotee, and we would have shared it 2-3 times. Now it again comes to us for the sake of those who are hearing for the first time. A great devotee of Guru Ayyappa was there. He was always in ecstasy in repeating his name, Narayana, 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 and also to dwell on the attributes. But somehow his family pressed him to get married, and he went and prayed before Guru Ayyappan. And according to him, Guru Ayyappan consented. So he got married, and naturally 2-3 children were born. Girl child was born. And after that, he was trying his level best to make both ends meet. And then finally, she came of marriageable age. He had no means to arrange for the marriage. It requires a lot of things. So he doesn't have anything. So he went and prayed before Guru Ayyappan. Why did you make me a grihastha? Why did you make me a father of a girl child? And now you see the girl has come of age. And now you have not provided me the wherewithal to conduct marriage. This is too much. You know, he was taking Guru Ayyappa into task. One story, or one side. Another side, another devotee of Guru Ayyappa, a well-placed person. He developed severe arthritis, unable to walk. And he has got a team of servants. So ultimately he decided that he will go and have the darshan of Guru Ayyappan. But he cannot walk. So in palanquin, he was taken. And those who have gone to Guru Ayyur, they will see the temple tank is there. So he asked the people to place the palanquin on the top. And he also placed a big gunny bag full of coins. On those days there were no currencies. And then the servants were taking him step by step, and then ultimately they were giving him a bath. He was looking at the palanquin side. All the workers were looking at the opposite side. This is another scene. So the person who cried, who took Guruvayurappan into task, had a dream. In the dream he said, "Don't worry, you go to the temple tank at about 9 o'clock. You will find a gunny bag of coins, take it, conduct the marriage." So he went. He thought, it could be my own reflection, my own projection of the mind. But Guruvayurappan cannot go wrong. So he went there. He saw a palanquin was there, a bag full of coins. He took it and started going. Suddenly this man who was taking bath, he saw the man going with it. Suddenly he said, "See, thief, he is taking my all this thing." And he started running towards the top. When he reached the top, he realized, I was not in a position, I was immobile, I was taken by these 4 people, and now he has blessed me, The Guruvayurappan has blessed me in that form. So he started running towards the man. By that time the man has left through so many lanes. So Guruvayurappan has saved both, answered both. Probably not in a traditional way, in a most untraditional way, by making him to do this circus. In his own way. Then only we remember Papa's words, God arranges all things in his own way at the time he appoints. And there is no good and bad, right and wrong in this. From the individual level it is wrong. From the higher level it is right, And he made the old man to realize. Though he said, "Thief, thief," we have to catch hold of him. As soon as he got at the top, he came to know what a marvelous thing Guruvayurappan has done now. Not only that he has cured me of my disease, but he gave me his darshan, in the form of a person. And then he has taken, I have offered him this, he has brought these coins to be offered at the feet of God, Bhagavan. So the Bhagavan has taken, That is why he said Guruvayurappan himself has come in the form of that person and accepted my gift, relieved me from the saving. To the other man, he has been given the money for his daughter's marriage. So in what all ways God comes and helps us, nobody can see. And to hear this, it wells up in our heart. More and more toward this subservient to his will. That means if we submit ourselves to his will, he comes to our rescue in untold manners. We cannot even say, we cannot rationalize this. Can anybody rationalize this? It is beyond the intellect. The intellect will say, is this the way to solve it? Here we know the limitation of the intellect. The intellect has got, framed certain rights and wrongs, norms in life, values in life. And it cannot say this is right. But here God is right. God in one act came to the rescue of his devotees. And both did not have any grumblings or complaints. Number one. One more lesson from this is, when our devotion, bhakti toward the Lord becomes so intimate, we can take him into task. We personally have witnessed in our childhood days, when we go to, we were in Wayanad. There are a lot of Harijans are there. You know, in most of the estates they were working in paddy field. So we had a lot of experiences to interact with them. Very nice people, simple people. Simple people. They have got simple faith in God. So we used to attend their programs also. In the nearby forest, on a rock, they will sit and they will have their own ways of worship. And in that worship, they will really take him into task. In their own language. We may call it words of abuse, no. So when we asked him later, can you use that language? He said, why not? He is our father, mother. So we can speak to him in any language that he makes us to say. It is the highest form of bhakti. Where we don't observe any protocols, any paraphernalia, any norms, you know. Straight away. Whatever he makes us to well up, we just pour it, that's all. There the intellect does not come at all. The sense of individuality does not come at all. When we are remembering those. You may not be able to understand if we repeat their words to us. In Malayalam, not Malayalam, a Malayalam mixed language of Harijans. But pure. They were all 100% value-based, highly contented, honest, straightforward, loyal. They have got integrity in character. Everything is there. But they are unlettered. They may not be following the lifestyle of what we are following. But in their heart they are pure, purest form. That is why they used to do that. Anyway, it is all a part of history. On those days, you know, the relationship between the workers and the manager or proprietor, it was something different. We had the good fortune of witnessing those things. At the time of harvest, they will have a puja to the Dhanya Lakshmi. You know, nowadays we don't hear that word. You know, we simply eat our rice. Dhanya Lakshmi, before the harvest is done, a puja is done for the Dhanya Lakshmi, and after that he will give the proprietor will give the sickle to the chief of the workers, Harijan. And you know what the proprietor says? Take any kandam, you know, any place, you know how the paddy fields are, different slabs of this thing. So he says, you take anything. That will be their first one. You know? That means they have been toiling with the soil, they have brought it out. So apart from their wages, they have to get a portion of this. So the proprietor offers, what is it that you want, take that portion. And you know what they said? I remember still. It must have happened in 53, 54, but it is very, very, very fresh in our mind. The chief will say, he will, okay, the small portion. That is enough. Itumati. They are contented. That was the relationship. That was the purity of their heart. With that purity of heart, they could communicate, talk to, have a dialogue with, take the Lord into task. So now we are getting more and more clarity about bhakti, you know, the real bhakti, where there is no formalities, there is no visiting God, no protocol, no other thing, you know. You straight away barge into his room. You don't ask anybody's permission. You don't follow any norms to talk to him. That much purity. One with him. You know, when Papa says, or when other says that love is something, you know, we become one with him. Just like we children, when our childhood days, we used to talk like this, you know. Whether it is proper or not, we don't analyze. That proper or not, that question will not arise at all in us, because we become childlike. So now Papa made us to go through in detail about the various aspects of the purest form of bhakti. And this bhakti comes not out of any satsang, not out of any anything else, except by His grace, by His grace, by His grace only. So we all now pray to Him. You have made us aware of what is bhakti. And you also made us aware that bhakti is not a product that we can cultivate. So it is there in our heart. You try to please remove that which covers it and make it to well up. Even to, because you made us to know that even to seek Him, He must seek us first. Even to remember Him, He must remember us first. So let that inward journey, inward journey in the form of prayer, let it well up in our heart with high potency. We have in homeopathy, Arnica 30, 200, 1M, 10M, like that. Potency is increased so that its efficacy becomes more and more visible. So we have to increase the potency of our bhakti. We have some hazy idea about bhakti. And we did not know that pure selfless love is needed. We all are arthas and artharthis also at times. And we may pray for this artha or the artharthi problem. So now we know that that will not give us. You want from us selfless love. So enable us, educate us, take us to that level, purify us. This is all that we can do. So let such prayer well up in our heart.
Yesterday's today's satsang, Papa helped us to better learning.
Pardon?
Yesterday's and today's satsang, Papa has given us a more idea about the love and the bhakti.
Correct. Yeah. That is why he gave us all these clarities. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai. Hari Om. Hari Om. Huh?